Welcome into Stone Cold Stros. I'm Brandon Strange alongside Charlie Palillo and Josh Jordan. You can follow them on X at Palillo and at Josh Jordan 975. And in between our podcast episodes, you can read their blogs covering the Astros, Texans, and Rockets over on sportsmap.com. On today's episode, Houston tosses out the Sox, but not without one stinker. And as has been the case when it comes to health all year, Houston just can't catch any breaks, but their cup runneth over when it comes to fractures and strains. Can the Astros stay healthy enough to eke out another division title? In the words of Jake Myers, do I have to answer that? But before we get going, show your support for this channel. Hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications. We're also on all your favorite podcast apps. As we mentioned on Monday, the three of us are relaunching the Texans podcast, Texans on Tap. First episode drops this week, so keep an eye out for that if you're a Texans fan. Charlie, Josh, welcome in. Obviously, the hater topic looms large. We'll table that for just a minute to dig into the series with Boston. Thoughts on the returns of Christian Javier, Arrietty's bounce back second thoughts, and other thoughts on this series.
Important developments. Javier starts giving up a base hit, and then Alex Bregman hits it out, and it's uh-oh. And then Javier was sharp, better command than he had in any of his build-up starts in the minor leagues. He got them through 5 innings, which was probably the max the Astros would have reasonably hoped for going into the game. And then the next night, all right, Arrietty, the results were but the stuff was good, right? Only giving up 1 walk in 5 innings, command all over the place. He walked 5 and then bullpen complete implosion. You know, the Red Sox pasted the Astros up at Fenway Park. The series this week, they outscore the Astros by 9 runs, 3 runs per game. This isn't soccer with some aggregate scoring and a 2-leg thing. So 14-1 counted as much as 2-1. And the Astros take the sandwich games around that. And then Hunter Brown, who along with Framber Valdez are the tent poles for the stretch drive. And if the Astros are in the postseason, same there. Hunter Brown kind of scuffled with his command. You could see him exuding some frustration. And he goes 6 2/3. Gives up 1 run. So that's 3 out of 4 now. 2 of them, he only went 5 innings, but 3 of his last 4 starts, Hunter Brown is back looking like the guy who was super elite most of the first half of the season. So yeah, the back end of the bullpen now is a little agita causing, no doubt, for Astros fans, and we'll dig in more. But hey, back-to-back series wins over the Yankees, over the Red Sox. And so whatever happens in the American League West, obviously the objective is to win that. Right, they win a couple games, Toronto and Detroit, for the best record in the league. But if things go south, the Astros, hey, the Guardians mixed in a loss on Wednesday. So the Astros 5 games to the good to at least get into the postseason, which is the minimal objective.
I thought Javier looked really good. I'll start with him. It's hard to find a bigger Christian Javier fan than me. And I was a little worried early, like, did they rush him back? And I think of that first at bat with Bregman, he threw a nice fastball at the knees on the outside corner that was called a ball. It was actually a strike in the K zone. So then after that, he kind of threw me a get me over breaking ball to Bregman to get a strike, and then he pounded into the Crawford boxes. So I think the umpire played a little bit of a role there, and he was just settling in. I mean, he hasn't pitched in so long in the big league. So I thought he looked good. Arrietty, Charlie's right. The stuff looks good. Not as many strikeouts in his recent performance. What do you have? 3, walked 5 guys. That's my biggest concern with Spencer. It's kind of like McCullers. He's got so much spin. Sometimes it's hard to keep it in the zone for him. So that's always going to be a challenge, but you'd rather have all that movement than not. So it's kind of a good problem to have, but I feel pretty good about the rotation. Arrietty, hone it in here, buddy. If Javier can come back from that injury and pitch like that, we should hold him to that standard too.
Seattle has the deeper rotation for these remaining 40 games. Maybe the Texas Rangers do also, but they can't hit. The Rangers are done. It's a match race now, Astros and Mariners in the American League West.
Yeah. I mean, you've got these guys coming back, and I mean, obviously there's the McCullers question that lingers out there, but you know, who even believes it's a blister at this point? I do want to circle back to Hunter Brown, though. You mentioned it. He pitches 6 2/3, 4 strikeouts. That's lower than we're used to with him. 3 walks. He struggled with his command for most of the game. He was a hunter hunting for his release point. I think the line looks a lot better than what it looked like visually. he hasn't been, I know the results have been there, but he really hasn't been the smooth operator that he was for most of the season. Charlie, you're not concerned with where Hunter Brown's at right now?
I won't say concerned. How about wary? I mean, from spring training forward, we noted that Hunter Brown, who the last 5 months of last season was just fabulous. In the process, he threw 170 innings, plus a postseason start, more innings than he'd ever thrown before. Well, here he is on pace to top that and come in around 190 innings. So if he's hit a mini wall, but still able to get results, they opted to go with him on 4 days rest in the finale against the Red Sox because of the off day on Thursday. Well, Friday starts 10 games in 10 days, then one off day, 13 games in 13 days following that. Even though they don't have 6 starters that you're saying we're comfortable running them out, I think they need to drop in a 6th starter, even if it becomes a bullpen game of sorts. That I don't want Hunter Brown, particularly. Framber Valdez, I just think is a more durable horse. And with his history, if you want to go with Framber on 4 days rest on a fairly steady diet, hey, if he's a little bit tired, maybe that sinker has more sink to it. But Hunter Brown, I would not want him going on 4 days rest for his starts the rest of the way.
Yeah, I agree with Charlie. And I mean, I'm not really concerned, Brandon. I think part of it, there's just so many bigger problems the Astros have right now than Hunter Brown. So you take what you can get from him. Pretty much he's been very good. When the fastball command is there, he's almost unhittable. So can't worry too much about Hunter. You know, this bullpen, especially after the Red Sox went bananas, it scored 14 runs the other day. There's some concerns there because everybody was complaining about Hector Neris the other night. They cut him. And then Hector Neris is thinking, how do you feel about the guys that are pitching instead of me tonight with Dubin giving up 4 runs and 2 homers, Colton Gordon giving up 4 runs. Theirs didn't look so bad after that performance. But yeah, we'll just hope it's an outlier here. But I was really looking forward to Dubin coming back and really rough outing in his return.
Well, is there anything scarier right now than to hear a bullpen game for this team? There were questions arising about the bullpen while the starters are getting stretched out for these return. Middle relief, you guys mentioned, it has been a revolving door. Hector Neris coming and going, although he did pick up his tenure while he was here. So congratulations on 10 years of service time. Colton Gordon, long relief, was not built for this. Brian King's been plagued by the gopher ball. Josh Hader now appears to be out for the year with a serious shoulder injury following that 36-pitch outing last Friday. Houston has patchworked the roster all season, but that formula is now being tested in a really tight playoff race. Joe Espada called it a gut punch. How do you guys describe the impact of losing Houston's 9th inning hammer?
Gut punch, but no knockout punch. Hader was magnificent on balance this season. 28 saves and 29 opportunities. But saves can be a deceiving stat in terms of how vital the closer has been to nailing down those games. Just 9 of Josh Hader's 28 saves did he come in with a 1-run lead, right, where there's no safety net underneath. So 19 of his 28 saves, he had either a 2-run lead or a 3-run lead. The Astros can go with anyone as the so-called closer in the 9th inning, and most of the time, they're not going to give up multiple runs. Brian Abreu, yeah, the leadoff guy seems to get on uncomfortably often, whether walk or base hit, but Abreu's been better than Hader over the balance of the season. ERA in the mid-ones to Hader's just a tick over 2. So I think Abreu will be just fine in the closer's role, especially since the preponderance of Hader's save opportunities weren't real nut cutters. Right? You come in with a 6-3 lead, a 5-2 lead, you get credit for a save, but you could almost get credit for a non-catastrophic appearance, right? Whoa, he protected a 3-run lead for 1 inning. Okay, golf clap. It's the trickle-down effect. Brandon, you talked about how Kings had a gopher ball issue. Bennett Sousa has kind of nudged ahead of him, I think, in the rotation. Save opportunity against the Yankees last weekend. Okert has done good work this season, but has also tailed off some. And then the righties, it's the cross your fingers combo of Ort and Dubin and Eniel De Los Santos out of nowhere. So it's the depth. They'll be fine in the 9th inning with Abreu. It's that bridge that gets taxed now between the starter and the closer, right? Espada said he's not going to name a closer. Abreu's going to be that closer, unless, as all good managers should do, in the 8th inning in a one-run game and the top of the order is coming up for the opposition, you think of that as the real situation when you want your best reliever in the game, and obviously that's Brian Abreu the rest of the way.
Yeah, I think Abreu will be fine. He's a great pitcher. He's been in the toughest moments. He's a champion. I don't have concerns there. It's the depth, as Charlie went to. Now you only really have one leverage reliever that's dominant instead of two. On the days where maybe Abreu's pitched the last 2 days in a row, you're not going to have him. So that's what's going to be challenging for Espada. He's going to have to get creative. And yeah, you're right. They did name a closer. Dana was on the flagship. Dana Brown, the GM. He said it'll be Abreu and some other guys, depending on the situation. Sousa, I think he mentioned. So kind of weird that they won't just go out there and name Abreu. It's not like they have anybody else that's in his league as a pitcher, but whatever, that's fine. Maybe they want to play the matchups if there's some lefties coming up and they want to use Sousa or King or whoever. So, and King isn't that great against lefties. I'm kind of starting to notice too. They seem to have gotten him for a few of these home runs. But anyway, it sucks to lose Hader. And you're right, Brandon. At this point, Espada has said it's going to be more than 15 days. That's all he's really confirmed. But, go get that second opinion if you liked what the first opinion was in that exam. So, unfortunately for the Astros, we've seen this movie before with these guys getting a second opinion. It usually doesn't go well.
It'll be a delightful surprise if we see Josh Hader before early 2026. So that magnifies the importance of the starting pitchers beyond Fromber and Hunter, giving them some innings or maybe they stack a couple of starters, right? Is Luis Garcia actually going to get back? Colt Gordon's on the Sugarland Express back down in the minors. Jordan Weems up. Will they get enough out of their starters since they're one man short now in terms of how Joe Espada liked to map out the end of games where they have the lead?
Yeah, I do think the Abreu thing with him not being named the closer is probably due to they're probably going to pitch to matchups. I think if the heart of the order is coming up in the 8th, that's probably where you're going to see him, and probably by matchups, lefty righties as well. With Abreu, the only thing that concerns me is 20% walk rate for the leadoff hitter for Abreu, the highest of all relievers. He's at or near the top when it comes to Ks among relievers. So it's kind of the duality of Abreu, but that Houdini act is a risky tightrope to walk when you're a closer and when you're pitching in high leverage situations. He's been able to get out of it. That's been kind of his calling card, is being able to make a mess and then clean it up. So that's polite. Can Sousa step up in the setup role consistently? That's going to be the real question. But I mean, it's all you have. You're going to have to go with it. The necessity being the mother of invention and of rosters at this point. Some other updates on health. Yordan Alvarez, Jake Myers, both headed to Florida. Alvarez continuing to ramp up pitching. We're understanding that he was supposed to face live BP there in Florida. Jake Myers ramping up his baseball activities. Anybody believe still that Yordan's hand was just a fracture? I don't. Luis Garcia's velo has picked up. We got the report that he's touching 94 in his last start in Sugarland. So that's good. He had expressed concerns about not being able to throw with electric stuff, given the new arm slot. It seems like maybe he's working that out. Out of these guys that you see, let's start with offense first, I guess. Yordan and Myers. I tend to lean to the fact that we'll see Jake before we see Yordan. Where are you guys at with that?
Well, if Jake is able to do full speed running and then plant and cut, you see the path. Yordan remains shrouded in mystery. He can dominate soft toss. He can take some swings in the cage. We'll believe it when we see it in the lineup for the Houston Astros in a game that counts. I mean, it would be manna from heaven. And you look at the depth that would be there in the lineup, because, Yordan's going to be in there every day, righty, lefty, at the designated hitter role. There is trickle down with that. Cam Smith continues to struggle mightily. Now, 13 for his last 90. That's a 144 batting average. We've seen Espada start sitting him occasionally against right-handed pitching Jesus Sanchez has to be in there every game, and that's at Cam Smith's expense if the Astros get back Jake Myers. Days you have Altuve in left field, which I think are going to be fewer the rest of the way. And one other thing about lineup construct, it seems Ramon Urias has nudged ahead of Mauricio Dubon on the utility board, at least within the infield. And I imagine with these two series upcoming against the Orioles, the spot is going to give Urias a chance to do damage against his former team.
Yeah, he's been really good of late and showed some real power in the Red Sox series. I'm excited about him. As much as I love Dubon, I don't feel like he has the thump like Urias has, at least we've seen lately. So, and the defense is fine too. So I think that's a great pickup because you're going to have him on the roster next year too if you hold on to him. So I like that move. Jordan, I mean, we've been talking about it all year, Brandon. His hand been bothering him since April. It's mid-August. I mean, what are we talking about here? Something's not right, but at least he's progressing until he's not, right? We've been through this before. He progresses, then he has a setback and we start over. So we just got to hope this is finally the time that he's over it. And with Jake, yeah, it'd be great to have him back. I think on the pregame show, they showed some video of him running around. So he looks pretty good. Hopefully he'll be back maybe within the next couple of weeks, but they rushed Jake Myers back too with that calf the first time. That's how he had this injury that he's dealing with. So make sure he's ready to come back. You don't want another setback.
Yeah, and another variable with Jake is where will the timing be? Does he just come back and pick up having the season that he had before going down, right? Jeremy Pena, not a hiccup. We don't know that in Myers, but they're just hoping for production from Taylor Trammell or Jacob Melton. Trammell's had some moments, but it's clear he's not a bona fide major league regular. Melton sure looks the part until he swings the bat. He hit 250 in the minors, and it's been a struggle to make contact here. So Myers would be a very nice boost if you can join them for this final month and a half.
And Chas McCormick starting to be a live person on a baseball field, hitting home runs again. So at least that's something there where if you're facing a lefty, Chas can show you that he can still square up a lefty, that's still in him. So it's good to have options because we don't know with Jake. And as Charlie mentioned, that these other guys aren't really proven big leaguers. So if Chas can give you anything, that's just icing on the cake going down the stretch here.
And you're not referring to emergency relief pitching duty.
He gave up less runs than some of those other guys than Dubin did, to be fair.
It was still comic relief. Yes. But good for him. He got to do it once in a big league game.
Well, color me unconvinced when it comes to Chas and him being productive, just because, we've seen flashes from a lot of guys this year have production. Taylor Trammell, Zach Short, Cooper Hummel. We'll see. Obviously we're rooting for Chas because he was such an integral part of their last championship run. I want to move over to, before I do that, I do want to comment on Myers, which is, when it was kind of the competition between Myers and McCormick, I think I underestimated Myers' defensive out in center. He has absolutely made me a believer this year. And that's probably just me being slow to the uptick here. But Myers has made me a believer, and no more so than not having him on the field has made me a believer in Myers' defense. That guy is a really bona fide good defender, major league defender, and I can't wait to get him back, if nothing else, but for his defense. But let's hope that bat warms back up the same way that Pena's did. I do want to move now over to the division race. Charlie, you mentioned the Rangers are spiraling, having lost 11 of their last 16. Looks like I got that one wrong. The Red Hot Mariners, their schedule stiffens up, facing the Mets and Phillies on the road before hosting the A's and Padres. I think I have that right. Who are the Padres, who are also in a tight division race as well. Houston gets the Orioles, 7 of their next 10, with Detroit sandwiched in there, followed by hosting the Rockies and Angels. Look, if all things were equal, we'd say that this was a favorable schedule, but this schedule or this season has been anything but predictable. That being said, let's predict it. Do you guys think that the guys in orange can take advantage of this on paper softer schedule and get back to outpacing Seattle?
Yeah. On paper. That's why paper can be wadded up and thrown in the garbage. You need to go do it. But this is the window, granted, with only 1 day off, 23 games in 24 days will be taxing. But the next 17 games, the Astros play 3 against a good team. The series in Detroit next week. Huge series. Tigers won the series at Dyken Park earlier this season. If you're in it to the end with the Tigers and Blue Jays to avoid the best of 3, the Astros need to take at least 2 out of 3 in Detroit next week in all likelihood. I mentioned the Guardians earlier, mixing in a loss, 22-8 in their last 30 games. Hey, the Mariners worked in a loss on Wednesday night, ending their 9-game winning streak. So the Astros, after their Thursday day off, will open the Baltimore series alone in first place. Will they remain that way the rest of the way? The schedule indicates this could be the chance to reopen a little bit of a margin as the Mariners go play at the Mets, who've been free-falling themselves the last 6 weeks, and then at the Phillies, who are probably the second best team, or arguably, let's make it arguably the second best team behind Milwaukee. Brewers are 27-4 in their last 31 games. So in short stretches, now obviously that's extreme. But, the Dodgers were world beaters earlier this season and had won like 7 out of 8 when the Astros went in there July 4th weekend, and the Astros swept them. And since then, including that series, the Dodgers are like 12-20. The Guardians were on a 10-game losing streak when they came into Dyken Park and dusted the Astros. And Cleveland's been on a month-long jag since then. The Tigers dominant the first 2.5, 3 months. They went 1-12 in a 13-game stretch. Now righted the ship, winning 10 of their last 16. So in the smaller windows, the apple cart can be upset in terms of expectations. But the Astros could not ask for the schedule to be drawn up much better than what they get over the next 17 games starting Friday.
Yeah, I think they can make some hay here. We do look back at that A's series, and that's the kind of the cautionary thing you point to where they got swept by them. But that was a different roster for the Astros when they played the A's. Now, that was before the trade deadline. I think the Astros are starting to feel the groove now. You won the series against the Marlins, the Yankees, the Red Sox. You got Correa back. I mean, Rios is starting to really look like a great addition. And then, Javier looking like vintage Javier. So if he can stay healthy, I think they can put a nice little run together here. Dana Brown always talks about, we just need to put one of those runs together, 9-10 games in a row. Usually every season we'll do it, a couple times or, something like that is what he always points to every year. So this is the perfect time for the Astros to do something like that. Maybe win, 8, 9, 10 games in a row and just really put their foot on the throat of the Mariners in this division. Because if they don't, it's going to be a dogfight till the end.
Yeah, I think you look at the Mariners roster, they have more players at their position who would start for the Astros than the Astros have who would start for the Mariners. Jordan gets back, puts one big additional marker in the Astros column. Framber and Hunter as good a 1-2 as there is, but the Mariners have superior depth in getting Bryce Miller back to add to that. Andres Munoz, their closer, remains healthy. The Astros just losing Hader. So I think it sets up as a great race. And in terms of spurtiness of the season, the Astros were 26-25, then went 29-10, the presumptive positive defining stretch of the season, unless they're going to close like Secretariat the remaining month and a half. And out of that, they're 13-18. Only the Rays have a worse record in the American League over that stretch than the Astros. But you know who's right there with the Astros, give or take a half game in that stretch? The Tigers. So really good teams can have weeks long, even a month long, longer than that run of action where it's like, this team stinks. The vicissitudes of 162 games. The Astros have one more big surge left in them. It doesn't mean that Seattle can't keep pace. And there's that 3-game series, Astros and Mariners looming at Dyken Park the last fortnight of the season.
Well, it's just really interesting because we know what the reputation is for Seattle and how they've closed seasons historically. It's going to be interesting to see if this is a different team and whether this propels them into a postseason run, or if they're going to regress back into the Mariners that we know and frankly love. Speaking of ending on a strong note, final thoughts before we're out the door.
Yair Diaz is an interesting player, still only 26 years of age. In some levels, exasperating. Some of his work behind the plate can't throw out a base stealer to save his life pretty much. Same for Caratini, which is in part the pitchers. But the Astros continue to give up more than 90% success rate in the caught stealing game. Offensively, we're approaching a month since the All-Star break. Yainer Diaz has one walk since the All-Star break in 85 at-bats. But the ball explodes off the man's bat. The insurance home run that he hit Wednesday, just an absolute bomb. If he can get more consistent elevation, I mean, this looks like a guy who should be a 30 home run hitter, right? He hit 23 in less than full-time action as a rookie, tapered down from that last season. He's on pace to hit 22, 23 this year. He and Christian Walker keep playing back and forth with a 700 OPS. If they can bump it up to even the 730, 740 range the rest of the season, that augurs very well for the depth of the Astros lineup.
Yeah, I'll piggyback there too, just with Christian Walker. Not a great game in the finale against the Red Sox, but overall he's trending up. He made some good plays on defense in that game as well, but he's trending up over the last 30 days. He's hitting over 260, OPS 833. He's pretty much what you thought you were getting over this last month. And I think it can continue. I think the Correa addition, I think it helps Christian Walker too. It lengthens the lineup. It takes a little pressure off of him. I just think all the vibes around the team is really good now because they're having success on the field. It's not just a feel-good story of Correa's back. He is producing at a high level. You're winning baseball games. Hunter Brown comes out in a big game in the finale against the Red Sox and says, we're gonna win this series because I'm gonna keep these guys from scoring more than 3 runs. And he did. He pitched a great game. But he gave up 1 run. So I think they could do it. Christian Walker could be a big key as we go down the stretch because, as you notice, he's hitting the ball to center field a lot now. So I think his timing's getting better. And so many of those balls have hit up the top of the wall. He's had like 3 or 4 almost homers. So he could be even having more production than we even realized just because he's just been a little short hitting the ball right up the top of the wall.
Let me dovetail off of the Correa thing because given what has happened this season, Dana Brown should invest in a pallet of bubble wrap for Carlos Correa. And if he has any left over, give some to Pena, Brown, and Fromber because those guys are going to be critical down the stretch. Quick message: if you're interested in advertising your service or product on our show, contact our friends on the sales team by visiting houston.sportsmat.com/advertise. The link is always in our description. Just click it. Or you can just go to the website, whatever you want to do. One last reminder, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to click like on the video while you're clicking things. And if you listen on podcasts and apps like Apple or Spotify, give us a 5-star rating while you're here. Next scheduled episode drops on Monday, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel with those notifications on. For Charlie and Josh, I'm Brandon saying so long. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend. And as always, go Stros.